A 401k plan is playing a big part in helping or delaying someone from moving into retirement, which is why experts say to give it a yearly checkup.
It is great advice, which is why we brought in Kris Nemes, who is with Nemes Rush Financial Wealth Management, to give us a little insight on that and some help. Good morning. Good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
So I think one of the big questions I feel like people ask is how often should they be looking at their 401k or having an expert take a look at it?
You should look at your 401k on a quarterly basis. So for a couple different reasons. One, you got to make sure you're contributing enough to it. So as time goes on, it's good to systematically check that and say, can I put another 1% or 2% into the plan? From a performance standpoint, it's always good to look quarterly just to make sure your risk tolerance is still in line with the investments, because you don't want to put too much risk in your 401k if you're getting older and near retirement, and you don't want too little if you're a younger investor.
So 401k is a great thing, but when it comes to retirement, a lot of people just rely on that 401k. Is that something they should do?
They should really try to have at least 3 buckets of income or savings. So one would be the 401k. Very important to have that because there's tax advantages that you get from participating in it. You defer your taxes into retirement when you earn less money, so you pay less taxes then. 2, they should look at their Social Security and say, what's my estimated monthly benefit that I'm going to be receiving in the future? And then 3, you should have cash on hand in a bank account or a taxable investment account. That's much more tax preferential, and you can access that much quicker without taking the tax hit of the 401k.
So cash is still king.
Cash is still king.
Probably always would be, right? So you mentioned how many times you should take a look at it quarterly. How often should you make changes?
Probably once a year maximum.
Okay.
It's best to have a good allocation that's in line with your risk and then set it and forget it, because there's always ups and there's always downs. So it can get very emotional when you look and say, oh, it's a great year. I've got all this money. I don't need to save as much. And then during the bad years, when you lose 15 or 20%, you get very, very stressed out. So rather than looking at it like that, take a long-term approach. Look at the balance and the performance maybe once a year, but just focusing on being consistent and doing it systematically is the best method.
So let's look at some things people should avoid with their 401k. I mean, I know I've had some friends who have taken out of their 401k to pay for a house renovation or something like that. I mean, is that something you should avoid? Is it different in every situation?
Definitely avoid taking money out of the 401k. There's certain penalties that apply if you go above the loan amount on your 401k. So you can always loan against it, but that's taking money out of the market, meaning that whatever growth occurs during that period of time, you're losing out on. So it's actually better to have a safety net. So focus on having 4 to 6 months of your monthly expenses in cash. Therefore, when something pops up, you don't have to pull from your investments to fund those expenses.
And overall, is there a magic number? I'm sure people ask you that all the time. Is there a goal number?
There is a goal number. I would say it's purely going to be dependent on how much you want to spend in retirement. So people can retire with very little in assets and have a successful retirement because they're disciplined in their spending. Other people that overspend on a monthly basis need to have an astronomical amount of retirement assets to be able to do it. So really the answer is this: you've got to be able to project what your current assets are out into the future, and is that going to be able to fund your expenses on a monthly basis?
You know, earlier you mentioned the 3 buckets, the 401k, the cash, and the Social Security. How do you estimate Social Security going forward for somebody who might retire in 30 years? I mean, do we know what the payout's going to be?
Yeah, so there's actually a great tool. You can go to ssa.gov, and there's an estimator. So if you have your Social Security number and you've got your name, you can go and create an account. Based off your last years of earnings, it'll give you an estimate of where you're going to be on Social Security. So regardless of how many years you've worked, you can go in and see, this is going to be my monthly benefit based on what I've earned up to this point.
Oh, that's good news.
Yeah, it is very good. All right, Kris, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. Great tips, great advice.
Thanks for having me.